Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. Today on the Produce Moms Podcast, we are welcoming the woman to the show that has taught me really all that I know about mushrooms. Lindsey Occhipinti is our guest today. She is the marketing manager at Monterey Mushrooms. She has spent nearly a decade working in the fresh produce industry and specifically focused on mushrooms. And you know what? With the rise of plant-based eating, with the way folks are trying to use food as medicine, mushrooms are like hotter than they've ever been. So it's really exciting to welcome Lindsey to our show today. Lindsey, welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so happy to be here.
It's going to be a great show. And I think folks are going to learn a lot about mushrooms as well as, what the brand Monterey Mushrooms stands for. Let's just start there. Tell us the story of Monterey Mushrooms.
Sure. Monterey Mushrooms is what I like to say, where humble folks work on 9 farms across North America to provide fresh, locally grown mushrooms to everyone's favorite grocery stores and restaurants. We started as a single company, we started as a single farm in Royal Oaks, California, and now we've grown to 9 through the leadership of our CEO, Shah Kazemi, and his family.
That's amazing. And so, I'm glad that you said that, because I often will tell people when we have the pleasure of promoting Monterey Mushrooms through the Produce Moms, I'll say something along the lines of, yes, it's a national brand, but it's locally grown always. So yeah. Yes. Oh, no, it's great. So let's talk about the different varieties of mushrooms. I mean, I feel like mushrooms are definitely a category within the produce industry where the biggest, we might not be in a scenario where we're not eating mushrooms, but we're certainly not eating the variety of mushrooms that we could be enjoying. Like, there's a big learning curve for some of these varieties. So if you could just, inform our listeners today about the different varieties of mushrooms and maybe share with us which ones are your favorite.
Alrighty. At Monterey Mushrooms, we primarily grow Agaricus bisporus mushrooms, which is the scientific name for the commonly known as white buttons, or baby bellas, creminis, and portobellas. But we also grow a couple of specialties. We grow oysters and shiitakes, and then we partner with growers who grow things that are even more exotic than that, like the brown beech. It also comes in a white beech, king trumpet, maitake, enoki. My personal favorite is what we call a portobellini, and it's that perfect stuffable brown mushroom that's between the size of a baby bella and a portobella. Mm-hmm. And I just love to do stuffed mushrooms with those. I also love to create little miniature, almost bite-sized portobello pizzas with the little mushrooms.
Oh, yeah. What a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. So let's talk about the health benefits. I really think that's going to be like the primary focus of this show. I think people are going to be really surprised when they learn from you about all the different health benefits of eating mushrooms. Of course, we know produce is good for us. We know that if we're buying an item from the produce department, that it's a good choice. But let's get a little bit more granular today. What are the health benefits of eating mushrooms?
Mushrooms are considered a superfood. They are nutrient-packed with fiber, B vitamins, potassium, selenium, which is an antioxidant, copper, and something that we're learning more and more about is ergothioneine and the benefits that ergothioneine can have on us. And it's ergothioneine that actually when the mushroom is exposed to ultraviolet light or out in nature to sunlight, it can convert to vitamin D so that the mushroom also contains high levels of vitamin D, which is becoming a more and more important and talked about nutrient of concern in the United States. So
Yeah, I feel
we're really
like
proud that you can find vitamin D in a natural source through mushrooms.
yeah, that's amazing because I feel like everyone is doing some sort of supplementation to meet their
Yes.
vitamin D deficiencies. Like if you go and get your blood work panel done, there's a really, really strong chance that you are going to be below the normal levels in vitamin D, especially during winter months, right?
Yes.
And depending on what climate you live in, that all of those environmental factors can absolutely affect the way your body is receiving vitamin D. So supplements have kind of always dominated how Americans consume their or meet their vitamin D requirement. But I love that Monterey Mushrooms is getting behind the vitamin D messaging in such a big way. So can you explain that process maybe a little bit more? I mean, how do mushrooms help?
So first, I will point out that not all mushrooms have measurable amounts of vitamin D in them. It's the fact that we expose them to the light that makes that possible. So when consumers are shopping for mushrooms high in D, they actually have to look for it, especially marked on the label. All of the vitamin D products that we sell also have a nutrition facts panel. So it's easy for you to see exactly how much vitamin D you're going to be getting. And we do that on sliced whites, sliced baby bellas, and whole portobello caps nationwide. And the way that we do it, to get a little bit scientific, the mushrooms are exposed to a precise wavelength of ultraviolet light. And we're doing that post-harvest at the time that we're packaging the mushrooms. So they get sliced in the same process, and they're exposed to the light. And then that cholesterol within them is converted to vitamin D when it's exposed to the light. So it's actually like technically a series of photochemical and thermal reactions that convert that cholesterol to vitamin D. And the type of D that it is D2. The other commonly known is D3. And the mushrooms are creating a D2. And this is very similar to the way that in nature, our own skin produces D3 when exposed to the sun rays.
Oh, so interesting. I feel like now, full disclosure, I am the mother of a middle schooler, but I feel like this is a winning science fair project for any mom that is listening.
Yes.
I mean, this is amazing. Lindsey, we have to do like a STEM project about this and publish it. This is super, super fascinating how this happened. So how did you guys, how did you discover this?
We worked with the USDA to come up with a patented process post-harvest. And what we're really trying to do is accomplish what's done out in nature. And so in rough terms, what happens in nature in about 20 minutes, we've figured out how to do in about 20 seconds.
Wow. That is unbelievable. And I will say, mushrooms kind of are that, they are that produce department item that no matter what you cook it in, like they are sponges. Like they will absorb the flavor of the sauce. They'll absorb, whatever you add them to. So I am not surprised that absorption, sponge-like characteristic, kind of carries over in a way to you being able to expose them to these rays, and they're converting. I forget the name of the what is the name of the plant property that converts?
It's a cholesterol. It's ergothol or ergothioneine.
Oh, wow. So scientific. I'm telling you, this is a winning science fair project, and it's fascinating, and it's good for you, and it tastes good. It's like amazing. So exciting. This is a really big deal though. I mean, we're in the middle of winter right now. We're coming up on, healthy new year. People are, more mindful of it. I mean, mushrooms are this is going to be great information for all of our listeners. And, I do want to kind of get into just a little bit, some tips from you on how people can increase their consumption of mushrooms. So, I definitely talk about, I'd love to hear more from your personal experiences as well as your, what you've learned as a mushroom industry professional. For people, I'd like you to approach two different people. For people that currently aren't buying mushrooms, like where do they begin, right? And then secondly, I'd love to get your thoughts on, people who are already mushroom consumers, but maybe looking to do more with this plant-based movement right now.
Sure. I think that the easiest way to incorporate mushrooms into everyday meals that you're already familiar with making and your family loves to eat is to saute mushrooms and add them to things. You can add them to avocado toast or spaghetti or top your burger or your steaks, even your salads. I find it really helpful at home to take the time once a week to saute sliced mushrooms and take my time to do that really well and use my biggest pan to get them browned really nice where they're not crowded in the pan and they come out just perfect with a little bit of garlic or shallots. I've also found that you don't need to cook with as much salt when you're cooking with mushrooms because of that umami property that they have. So just taking that time to get some sauteed mushrooms in your fridge to be an easy ingredient that you grab and just add to whatever else you're making. For me at our house is a great place to begin.
Right.
And then when I have more time, I like to do some of the more gourmet dishes with mushrooms. We try not to eat meat every night, though we do eat a lot of meat. There's more and more research out there showing how important it is to incorporate the plant-based diet in your lifestyle. And we don't necessarily need meat for 3 meals a day. So I've gotten creative with taking some of the recipes that we love and adapting it, substituting mushrooms. For example, I recently made a chicken marsala without chicken. I actually used a portobello cap and I breaded and lightly fried just like I would a chicken breast. And then I made a marsala sauce for that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Pasta. And so that's another creative way to use mushrooms. Just think of the common things that you're making and substitute mushrooms for meat. It's really easy to do with pasta dishes.
Yes. And we would be remiss not to mention all of the resources on your website. I mean, everyone needs to visit MontereyMushrooms.com. They have everything from, different ways to celebrate the seasons with mushrooms to, gosh, one of my favorite pieces of content you've produced, Lindsey, is or published is the craft beer pairing guide with mushrooms. Yes, that's brilliant. Yeah, there's really just an endless amount of opportunities there. I will say from my family's perspective, the number one way, and frankly, right now at the stage of life my boys are at, they're a little resistant to mushrooms. And I'm sure I'm not the only mom who can say that. Like they're just not fans. It's not so much the flavor, it's the texture for both of my kids. So I hide it. I do the blend, which is, I think, a great way to get more produce into your meal. And it's also a great way to save some money too. When you're making dishes like spaghetti bolognese, make it with 60% meat and 40% mushrooms. And when you dice those mushrooms up or pulse them up in your food processor, you really cannot you cannot distinguish them if you blend them up as your brownie or ground beef. So that's definitely the way that my family consumes them the most. I eat them anyway. And we actually just published, within the last few months, we published a recipe for mushroom chips. Kind of reminded me of what Lindsey was saying with sauteing them up and having a big batch that's ready to go. These mushroom chips, I'm not kidding you, they taste like bacon. Like, they are unbelievable. So just search mushroom chips on the producemoms.com for that recipe, and definitely check out montereymushrooms.com as well for all sorts of inspiration and information as it relates to mushrooms.
Yes.
Yes. So, we are closing in on our time today, Lindsey, but I want to make sure that our consumers know where they can find Monterey Mushrooms. I mean, I've already told them about the website. Any closing remarks that you might have, or the last word, as we like to say on the podcast, the mic goes back to you.
I will close with this helpful tip that you can go to our website and find a list of all the grocery stores by state where you can find high vitamin D mushrooms. We're finding more and more people asking us on social media channels and on our website where to find these high vitamin D mushrooms. So we've created an easy guide for you to find them in your market.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.